The power of Stoic silence. We live in a world where being loud has become common, where explanation is demanded for every step we take. But the Stoic doesn't play that game. He doesn't beg to be understood. He doesn't list reasons for why he's worthy. He knows that to explain himself in a place where respect is absent is to kneel before ignorance, and so he remains silent. He steps back, not in weakness, but in strength. He walks away, not to retreat, but to allow the world to feel the depth of his absence. Because silence is not surrender. It's a message, a wall, a mirror. It's not a cry for attention. It's a command for respect. If you're not being valued, the answer isn't to shout louder. The answer is to raise your worth in silence. That's Stoicism. Calm, cold, but grounded in unshakable inner power. Rule 1. Let silence be your reply to devaluation. People are always watching your reaction, judging whether you are in control or easy to control. When someone disrespects you, your first impulse may be to explain, to defend, to fight for your dignity. But the Stoic way? He stays silent. Because every word offered to someone who's already dismissed you only shrinks you further in their eyes. Words have weight, but silence has gravity. It creates distance. It sets boundaries. It becomes an invisible shield saying, "No further." And those who thought they had power over you suddenly feel the chill of your emotional withdrawal. That is strength. When you hold your composure without explanation, you prove that your value isn't negotiable. They may mock you, ignore you, take you for granted, but your silence becomes a space they can't fill, a presence they can't replace. You offer no emotion, no argument, just stillness. And in that stillness, something louder than anger begins to rise. Influence. Epictetus once said, "Let your actions speak for you." Don't waste time in empty arguments. The moment you begin to defend your worth, you begin to lose it. The Stoic doesn't chase validation. He simply stops giving it away. And that's when the shift happens, when what was once taken for granted becomes painfully missed. This isn't revenge. It isn't manipulation. It's self-respect. Rule 2. Withdraw. Don't argue. Silence is the end of illusion, of pretending that your role mattered in a place where your dignity didn't. The Stoic walks away not because he can't stay, but because he won't stay, where his presence is unappreciated. He doesn't play the background in someone else's performance. He leaves and becomes the stage. Sometimes the first act of self-respect is disappearing from spaces that welcome your presence, but not your worth. And yes, it hurts. But losing your dignity hurts more. As Simon Sinek put it, a wise man never stays where he cannot live with dignity. Staying where you are disrespected isn't strength, it's emotional dependency. But the Stoic, he detaches, even if it means walking alone. Rule 3. Don't explain, demonstrate. When you're being devalued, don't try to teach lessons to people who don't want to learn. Show them the price of losing access to you. People rarely change after lectures. They change after loss. When your presence, your warmth, your energy are no longer theirs to use. If you stay where you're not valued, you're training others to ignore your no. But if you walk away calmly, without noise, they'll feel the emptiness you leave behind, and perhaps in that silence, they'll grow, if they're capable of it. Rule 4. Retreat with dignity. The Stoic doesn't scream or slam doors. He doesn't send long messages or leave clues. He simply exits. No explanation, no chase, just silence. His absence becomes the lesson. Epictetus said, If you want someone to see the value of something, take it away from them. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. The Stoic doesn't seek to be liked. He chooses to be respected, even if that means being misunderstood. He changes not to please others, but to protect his peace. Rule 5. If you must explain your worth, you've already lost. The moment you argue for your value, you become a product to be judged, a service to be rated. But the Stoic is not for sale. He doesn't list his virtues, he lives them. And if they are unseen, he does not perform. He walks away, because real value is either felt or lost. His silence becomes a lesson, his calmness a challenge, and only when he's gone do people begin to recognize what they had. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not seek to be understood. Seek to be at peace with yourself." That is the core of Stoicism. You don't demand respect. You embody it. You don't shout to be seen. You become the kind of person who's missed when silent, because the Stoic knows you don't prove worth through noise. You prove it through presence, and if not honored, through absence. Rule 6. Don't teach those who don't respect you. When someone disrespects you, your instinct may be to explain, correct, or make them understand your worth. You might say, maybe if I show them how I feel, they'll treat me better. But that's not how it works. People who have already decided not to respect you won't suddenly change because of a heartfelt conversation or logical argument. In fact, the more you explain, the more they might see you as weak or desperate. The Stoic approach: don't try to educate people who've chosen to ignore your value. Let your absence be the teacher. When they no longer have access to your kindness, your attention, your time, that's when they'll notice. If they ever will, silence and distance are more powerful than any speech. Rule 7. Stay calm. It's your invisible armor. The world often pushes you, tests you, disrespects you, just to see how you'll react. The goal? To break your balance, to provoke you into defending yourself emotionally, loudly, irrationally. But when you stay calm, you stay in control. Your calmness becomes a kind of silent shield, a form of power that others can feel but can't touch. It says, "You cannot shake me. You don't control me. I am unbothered because I know who I am." The Stoic doesn't act out of emotion. He manages emotion with discipline. He may feel deeply, but he doesn't perform pain for others to see. His strength is quiet. His calmness is unshakable. That composure is what separates a Stoic from someone who is easily controlled. Rule 8. Walk away when your dignity is unwelcome. Sometimes you stay in a space hoping things will improve. Friendships, relationships, work environments, places where your presence is accepted, but your dignity is not. You tell yourself, if I try harder, if I'm more understanding, maybe they'll respect me. But truthfully, staying in places where your value is ignored doesn't build strength. It builds dependency. You begin sacrificing your self-worth just to stay connected. The Stoic understands where dignity is not honored, presence becomes pain. So he walks away, not in anger, not to punish, but to protect his inner peace. He'd rather be alone in self-respect than surrounded in disrespect. Because walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom.